Hi everybody, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. It's 1 week until Election Day. Yay! And I hope that if you haven't voted already, you've made a plan to vote. I strongly recommend do not drop your ballot in the mail. I repeat, do not drop your ballot in the mail. Contact your registrar of voters to find out what your options are. Today, I am pleased to introduce you to Claire Mack, the first Black mayor of San Mateo. She is a firecracker, full of energy, full of life, full of gusto. She is just incredible. She is an excellent example of how you can have impact in your community. If you're thinking about running for office, this is your podcast. We need you. America needs you and your ideas. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. I interviewed her on the first day of the Republican convention, so there might be a couple of references to that. But Bill and I interviewed Claire in her San Mateo home. Out of her San Mateo home, she runs a bakery called Claire's Crunch Cake. Oh my gosh, it's really good. She's raising funds for her great-grandchildren to go to college. Nevertheless, I know that you're going to get a kick out of Claire. I just checked in with her today, and one of the things she mentions during this podcast is collecting ballots to bring over to the registrar of voters. Today, she told me she's not doing that. She doesn't want to get in trouble. I'm going to check in with her next week on the 4th to talk about how crazy it is. I may actually end up doing something live on Facebook. Stay tuned. Nevertheless, vote. Did I mention vote? Vote. Vote. Get out there and vote. That's the only way your voice can be heard. It's important. Every vote counts, even yours. Make it count. It's okay to get mad, but the way to get even is to vote. Since mid-October, I've been doing a Bible study on the 3 key areas that I'm really weak at: submitting to government, discernment versus judgment, religion and politics. The latter is really a study in leadership. Little did I know. I just followed the study Bible, and it has led me on this path. I am working on redoing my website so that it will contain all of these entries for you, because all of these entries really are important going forward. So remember to take Jesus into the ballot box with you. God bless you as you enjoy this podcast. All right, and here's Claire. Okay, so you spent 10 years on the San Mateo City Council.
12.
12 years. When did you step down?
I stepped down in 2002 or 3.
And the first African-American mayor in San Mateo.
First one.
Amen.
And it seems like the last one. I hope that
No.
that's going to change.
Trailblazing. You open the door for somebody.
I don't like the gap. And unfortunately, San Mateo is emptying itself of black people. This block on which I live has more black people than any other block in the city. That's sad. This town used to be loaded with black people. We were never over 20%. Never that high. Maybe 10, 9, 8. If we're in the percentages now. There's nobody here.
Are there any up-and-coming leaders that you see here in San Mateo County that we should be paying attention to? And the second part of the question is, what more can the church do, as if it's not taxed enough?
Yeah, everybody says, go to the church, go to the church. I'm not going to burden churches because churches get asked to do a lot of things. We have a female minister around the corner, Marlon Bussey, and she works her tail off, and they want her to be part of everything, and she's coming up with a good idea. There's some foundation, but they want to give some money to help low-income neighborhoods. Being this one, the minister came up with a wonderful idea of let's find a parking place so that the many people who live in this neighborhood who have commercial vehicles will have a place to park and they can get them off the street. This place is a madhouse in the evening with all the trucks. You can't park. And they need a living. And they need to be able to have their vehicle in a safe spot.
But are there other young, up-and-coming kids?
I've had many young people come to me and say, Ms. Mack, I want to run for council. How involved are you in this neighborhood? How involved are you in the city? You've got to know where you're going to run. People think you just get up and run. It doesn't work that way. You have to know the city. You have to know the problems that are going on in the city. There has to be something you're passionate about. You can't just get up and run. And it's not fun and games. It's a job. And if you're a young person with children, you need childcare. You need all of that stuff. And when school was going, you kind of had that stuff. You've got to put some thought into it. Many people, in my opinion, are running because there's something glorious about it. I ran to serve my community. They don't think about service. I don't know what they think about. I called one of the city council men when he first got on the council because a family had come to me and said, this neighbor is taking my property. And the guy did. He just took 12 inches of her property. She's from China. He's from Peru. Somebody on the other side of him took his property. So I went and got another council person who happened to be of Hispanic background, and he helped. The other council person, who was a white male, said to me, oh, this is city council. We don't get involved in petty neighborhood problems.
Then what do you do?
I have no idea what you do. I don't know why he thought he should be there. I guess he thought he was going to do some legislation like close the post office or something, because I don't know what he's there for. I hear he wants to be a DA, so.
All right, so I also understand that you were the 2017 Citizen of the Year because you organized a downtown San Mateo cleanup effort for 8 years.
Was that how long it took me to lift my shoulders? So I was in office for 12. I thought it was longer than that. Youngsters don't know politics, and they don't know what's going on in the world. They just don't know. Several youngsters came to me and would always want to borrow money. It evidently sat in front of our house so they could see Bank of Mack or something. So I decided I needed to do something because I did not have money to give to anyone. So I said, well, let's figure out a way for you to earn money. And I went to the city, and I've always thought the downtown could be cleaner. And I asked that they supply me with brooms, and we started sweeping San Mateo. It took me 8 years to knock my shoulders out.
Oh.
I had to give up my exercise class because I wrecked my shoulders sweeping.
Wow, repetitive stress injury, nice.
Absolutely, and my shoulders are just gone. And part of it's my fault because I used to lead a class in an exercise called Luke Tunkin. And in Luke Tunkin, you do a lot of arm raises and arm extensions. And one day I did 2 classes. And when you're in your 80s, you should not do that. So after sweeping for 8 years and doing 2 classes in one day, my shoulder said, you know what? We're not helping you anymore. Leave us alone. Absolutely. So I have very wonky, very interesting show. But I enjoyed my sweeping group. Some days we would have close to 100 people down there sweeping.
Wow.
We paid $5 an hour long before minimum wage was even $5 an hour. We did it for 3 hours from dark to light. It was truly an amazing something to do. One day I had a lady, she was across the street. There's a sign across the street that says Mack Family Way.
Right.
That was given to me by the city through the efforts of a friend, Eleanor Curry, who just died. People think that's my house across the street. And I saw this blonde lady walking back and forth, and I didn't know why she was there. Finally went to the door. They told her to come across the street. She said, Miss Mack, I used to sweep the street with you, and I saved my money, and I'm now off the street. She said other guys would go and get drugs, or they'd go and get food, or they would pull their money so they could go and get a motel room so they could go take a shower and stuff like that. She said she saved her money. She was now off the street. That was a thrill.
That's a success story.
That was just... Another woman, she had been a nurse. She volunteered to be in the Army. She went to Vietnam, and she was a do-good lady, and went out and she was going to convince the Viet Cong to put their weapons down, and they cut her throat. When she got back to the States, I don't know if she was an alcoholic before then or whether that was her plight. Anyhow, I was fussing at her one morning because I walked up on a group of them and they were sitting around. She says, you can't talk to me that way. You don't know who I am. And I got to know her. Her name was Peggy. She had a wattle hanging from her neck where it had her throat cut. But anyway, Peggy would come to me and she didn't have a place to stay, and I would put her in a motel. Mm-hmm. And back in those days, I had a steady job, so I put it on a credit card. I could do that kind of stuff. One night, she came to my door, and I told her, I can't do it anymore. I'm no longer on the city council. I don't have that kind of money. So the next morning, my husband got up to go play golf, and there's a shed in the back of our house, and he had stored the back seats of the car. There was Peggy sleeping. It scared the hell out of him. Scared the hell out of her. But she needed a place to stay.
Yeah.
My husband says, did Claire tell you to stay here? And she, of course, said no, because I had not.
Right.
But one day, somebody gave me some wonderful luggage, and I searched all over San Mateo till I could find her. I found her, and I gave her this luggage. And after that, she got off the street. She, the hospital came through. She had been a nurse. They finally gave her an early pension, and she ended up in an apartment somewhere around here. I don't know what has happened to Peggy. But most of the people I worked with who were derelict and had no place to live have died because most of them were alcoholics. Being out in the element for so many years, they didn't last very long.
But you did your part.
I just talked to a wealthy friend of mine who would say, what can we do tonight? And we would get in her car, go down to Kmart and buy a bunch of sleeping bags, and we'd ride around town to see who we could give them to. Give them to the different people who needed them. And it was so senseless. The police would find where a bunch of them were living, and they would confiscate their stuff and throw it in the garbage. Which, what
I know. But in Santa Clara County, though, Bill is the homeless expert.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're not confiscating, or did they make that illegal?
Well, they have to put up a notice. They take the stuff, but they don't follow through. So yeah, it gets trashed.
Oh man,
It's sad.
this lady, her name is Marianne Saylor. She bought many a sleeping bag.
It's a waste of time and effort.
It's a waste of money. Here you have a perfectly good tent or a perfectly good sleeping bag, and you've destroyed it. You know it's new, and that's what bothers me about the police. This morning on the news, a black man somewhere in the United States,
I saw that,
was shot in the back.
Wisconsin, and he was getting into his car, 7 shots to the back, and his kids were in the car.
What is wrong with these young white men and some men of color who become police officers? Where did your decency go?
It's a control issue. It's a power issue. A lot of them are veterans, so they take that veteran experience and bring it over to police departments. They've been militarizing police departments. It's crazy. But they're also now offended by the whole defund the police. All they hear is no money, but what they're failing to hear is that we're talking about not bringing a gun to every call. Like, social workers should probably de-escalate instead of police officers. The way police officers de-escalate is to shoot them. It's crazy.
Go away from their weaponizing themselves. Or we just had an incident in San Mateo. I'm not happy with our police chief, and it's funny. He just called me the other day because he wants to meet with me. I wrote him a nasty note. I wrote it to him and to 2 of the city council people, the one I just told you about. But I said, you don't have to unzip your pants to prove that you're a man.
Right.
We had a lovely march in San Mateo, and at the end of the march, they pulled a I'm Tarzan, you're Jane thing, where they rode down the street with their sirens going. They jumped out of their cars. They've got military gear. They've got these rubber bullet guns.
New toys.
Yeah, and scared the hell out of the populace. What good did that do, and what purpose did it serve?
But did you see what they did in Minneapolis after George Floyd? The mayor pulled back and established a perimeter. Don't let other people in. Leave them alone. And it occurred to me about 5 or 10 minutes into watching the police department ablaze. I'm like, wait, there's no cops. What they did was they de-escalated by not escalating. That was the lesson from Ferguson.
And like Reverend Al has been saying, the movements have all been infiltrated. Most of the people who are breaking the windows and making destruction are not the people who start these things. I've been on many a march. I formed a march over Ferguson. In fact, the last police chief of San Mateo, she came to my house and asked me not to do it. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. There's nothing but a bunch of old folks. I'm promising you the average age is going to be 82. And we did have the march, and we weren't all quite that old. And there were maybe 12 of us and a dog. And we marched around the park over here a couple of times. Some of them sat because we're too old to walk. And she had called out helicopters.
Wow.
One of the cops called on the phone and said, you can stop the helicopters. We won't need the helicopter. And right now, to this day, she calls me a troublemaker because I wouldn't do what Mama wanted me to do. My white mama came to my house and told me, you can't do this. You shouldn't do it. I said,
and you said, watch me.
And I did it.
Yeah.
My daughter said, did she think you all were going to throw your dentures at each other or something?
I mean, helicopters?
Helicopters.
That's a common tactic that we see in Washington and everywhere now.
I was so mad at her.
Very expensive.
I'm doubly mad at her. Not so much about the helicopters, but you can come to my house and talk to me, and I'm telling you nothing's going to happen. But you can't believe me. I'm a writer, and in several of my books I've stated this. If the nigger said it, it's not to be believed. And this has been a pattern through my life. City Hall, I would say such and such a thing, and somebody would say, really? Did that really? What the f*** do you think I'm talking about? This is what I'm talking about. I just said it. What's wrong with it because it came out of my mouth?
Okay, so you're young, it's spry. What is your next civil engagement?
Civil engagement?
Yeah, what is the next thing you want to do?
I have been so tempted to go down. Most people who do protesting in this area of the city go down to El Camino, which is a fairly heavy street on 5th, 6th, or 7th Avenue and El Camino, and they hold their signs up. I am so tempted to go do anything against the person who's in the White House. Any kind. At first I was going to put up a sign that said, no matter who, vote blue. I don't care who it is.
That's right.
Vote blue. So we've got our candidate, so I don't have to do that.
So if a young person, by young I mean inexperienced in politics, wants to get involved, if I hear you correctly, start with serving the city, volunteering.
Not necessarily volunteering. know your city. Right now, things are being closed down because of the virus. What are you doing to help anybody? What do you know about your city that's going to help it to progress with this virus going on?
Can't
and
just
you have
jump
to know
in and
more.
run.
Yeah, no more than just your city. Now, San Mateo has an academy for people who want to be involved, and they take you to every facility in this city. Probably every city has.
For young people, right?
Not just for
but
anybody who wants to become
It's
involved
like
in the city.
like a 3-month or 4-month program.
It's
and then
some kind of, it's for everyone who wants to know about the city. You learn about all of the departments in the city and all of those, how it relates to you. What happens with your street paving? Who owns the sidewalk and all that kind of stuff. There's an academy that gives you all that information. And just being curious. Have you gone outside of your neighborhood? Have you ever gone to the cemetery that's in San Mateo? Do you know there's a cemetery in San Mateo? Do you know how many high schools are here? Do you know how many schools are here? What do you know about your city that's going to help you serve it?
Regardless of how long you've been
And
there.
being on the city council is a service job.
Right.
Too many times people in real estate want to be on the city council. Why do you think that?
Mm.
People who are architects, why do you think that?
Right.
Insurance people. I was the first black from a lower socioeconomic side of the city.
Do you run citywide or did you run up for a
We ran
district?
citywide.
Wow.
And I don't know. But once again, people in San Mateo knew me. I had a television show. I had a radio show. 9/10 of them had been on my radio or television show at the college. People knew that I put on Jazz on the Hill. And Jazz on the Hill included the fire. It included the police department. And they were happy to get up there because you heard some of the best jazz in the world. And that's one of the most beautiful campuses in the world. It's just a gorgeous place to be. Be involved in your city. And I'm on the complete opposite side of town of that area. This city runs from the Burlingame border to the Belmont border. How many times have you been out to see your bay? How many parks have you been to? This city is full of wonderful, beautiful parks. I started out on the Park and Rec Commission.
There you go.
And when I started out, they wanted me to be on the Human Rights Commission. I said, black people like grass. People put in their minds what you should do, and this is mainly white folks because they don't know.
Yeah, because they think all we do is bounce a basketball and throw a football.
Or we go in the house and eat watermelon and spit the seeds out.
Yeah.
People have stereotypes about people. It's so funny. I have heard more things that people thought I said, and most people think that I am very brash, and in many times I am. One poor man, a realtor, said that I called him some of the most vile names. I said I didn't say that. And both of my friends said, you looked like you said it because that's probably what you were saying in your head. You didn't say it to him. A lady just told me the other day, she's in her 90s, she said, I told her that when white people were in the room, I could smell them. I never said that to that lady. And now in her 90s, if that's what she thinks I said to her,
whatever.
God bless you, but I didn't say that. I am subject to say a lot of things, but I didn't say that.
Okay.
One question. You said saving the neighborhood, so what does that look like? What ideas?
To save your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Or how did we save this neighborhood?
Yeah.
What happened was way back in the day, just as I was running, there were groups of people who there still are, and that's what this next election is. There's a Proposition P, whereby people want to come to San Mateo and they want to gentrify this neighborhood. They want this neighborhood because it's so-called the lower socioeconomic part of San Mateo.
So this is development initiatives.
People want to come and develop. When they want to come and develop, they want your property. They want people of color to move out. And
Bring in yuppies.
I told my kids, if they sell this property, I'm going to clump them to death. But it's a lovely neighborhood. It's close to the airport. It's gridiron, patterned streets.
Nice school right here.
Nice school. It's not really serving the neighborhood. It's becoming a Chinese immersion school. And some hanky-panky's been going on there. And that's one of the reasons the person under your chair wanted to get involved was with the school. And as I told you, that supposedly is a young, liberal American. And she's got her head up her behind. She was talking about the history of this city and two women who helped save this community. When I first ran for office, one of the women that she's calling a racist used to live in this neighborhood. Along with that lady, this other woman who's up near the College of San Mateo. These two women are working in opposition to this woman, and this woman had the temerity to call these two women racist. But she doesn't know them. She's Asian. But the bottom line is, you don't know who these people are, and you don't know who you're calling a racist. You're calling some very good friends of mine who helped save the neighborhood where you live, but this young lady, she's a bit full of herself anyway. When she first came to my house, she sat right there and told me that if I didn't do something she wanted done, I can't even remember what the thing was.
Oh, she threatened you?
Yeah, and I should have cut her loose right then, and I didn't. But she said, if you're not going to be on our side, then this neighborhood is going to go back to being what it used to be. And I said, now just wait a minute, young lady. I've raised 3 women in this community who all have college degrees and who all went through this neighborhood quite well, thank you. And whatever you want, I think you need to go find some people your own age and you go work on this. I didn't cut her loose then. I let her come back into my life, and then she's done what she's done now. And I've had several other friends say, Claire, this lady ain't right. I'm trying to make it work, and it's not going to work. Usually my lawn is covered with what's going on in the city politically. Well, my first candidate, I'm not going to back.
All right.
I'm just not backing her, so she's upset me. Chinese immersion is really bringing out some very interesting parts of people. The kids from this neighborhood have been bused for many, many years. And there's another contingent that wants the kids to be able to come back home. And I'm there. I want our kids to be able to come back and to be able to go to a school. And they're not going to be my kids, and it's not going to be black kids. It's just going to be kids who live in this neighborhood. Young Latinos, young kids of color, young lower socioeconomic kids. Come back and try to get teachers who want to teach them. That's why we moved our kids out. Our kids were among the first to be bused, and my kids are all in their 40s and 50s. All of a sudden, we got teachers here who said, well, they couldn't teach these kids. And what the hell's wrong with you? You can't teach our kids. Our kids know how to learn. I said, you may not have been teaching me when I went to school, but I learned by osmosis.
Okay.
Something was being taught. But his ratio got too far. Now, one of the things that happened was we had a group of people who wanted to come to North Central and tear down all of the houses between Tilton and 3rd Avenue and put in public housing. I was not for that plan. I said, old homes are nice. You can rehab a house. And there's some you may have to tear down because they're in such bad shape. But there's nothing wrong with an older home. And there's no reason to put in public housing here. You know in the United States how to build a ghetto. We already know how to do that. We're very proficient at that. You're not going to do that in San Mateo. You are not going to do it. We had a social service organization here called Samaritan House and another social service organization called Project 90. Project 90 wanted to have a Project 90 house in every block. I said, oh, come on now. You can't do that to us. Yes, people who have been to prison need a place to live, but they don't need to live on every block in North Central San Mateo. And Samaritan House is also lovely. But every city around here needs a Samaritan House. Don't put it all here. Well, the people in North Central are the ones who need it. I said, that's bull. People come from 5 different cities around here in this county to come to Samaritan House. Put it in a commercial area. Some people would complain they'd wake up in the morning and be a homeless person out on their lawn, bathing, getting themselves cleaned up. People need to do that. But don't do that on my lawn. And if you like it so damn well, and you live in Hillsborough, then put it up near you.
Yeah.
You in Baywood, San Mateo, or you in whatever other neighborhood, put it in your neighborhood if you think it's so good. Well, Claire Mack doesn't like this kind of people. Or she's a NIMBY. I said, you know what? If I want a nice house and you want a nice house, then we both want the same things. I don't want to have every social service organization in need be in my neighborhood.
Right.
Put one of them in your neighborhood.
Distribute it.
Absolutely.
Evenly.
I said, you people beat the sun getting out of the neighborhood, but anything that you don't like, you want over here. King Center, the director, he just died, bless his heart, but he and an ex-Catholic priest both decided we should be taking care of everybody at King Center. Well, people would come from San Francisco, they would come on buses, get off, walk down, and sit all day at King Center until it was time to eat. They'd be defecating, urinating, vomiting, and the staff is cleaning it up.
From San Francisco.
A lot from San Francisco. Even when I had the sweeping program, I had people from San Francisco get on a bus and come down here. $15 was good back in the 90s. People come in here because they heard that they could make $15 on a Saturday morning. Black as night out there, I'd have cops out there. All my friends were praying for me.
Talk to me about your thoughts on the voter suppression that we're seeing that's blatant coming from the White House. In fact, did you see the testimony of the Postmaster General this morning?
I didn't see it this morning.
He was asked point blank, will you replace those sorting machines?
He already said he wouldn't.
Yeah, well, today it was a yelling match.
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to replace them. He's had some of it junk. I think he is a pig.
What else can people like me do about this election today?
Tell your friends. First of all, I tell people, I was so mad at one of my customers the other day. He came here, he parked in front of the house. I said, dang, that's a pretty car. Yeah, it's a Tesla, Lexus, something. I said, you're Latino. Are you registered to vote? Yeah. I said, are you going to vote? Yeah. I said, you're not registered, are you? I'm going to get registered. You can go out and buy a luxury car.
But you can't register to vote for free. It doesn't cost you anything except a few minutes. I mean, and that's one of the things I miss about my husband. We would sit down the night before the election And we would have a massive debate, and then we're done.
Yeah.
See, that's frustrating to me. One of the biggest excuses I hear is just one person.
Yeah.
And I remind them, I said, there was an election somewhere, it was a tie. Basically, they pulled something out of a hat. So I'm like, your vote counts. You have to vote. Do you like what's happening? No. Vote. So what else can we do to get ready for this election? I think what I hear you saying is that we need to socialize the vote. We need to get out there and talk to people and
call your friends.
Engage.
I've been doing a little of that because of COVID. Just go through your telephone list and start calling people. How are you? What are you doing? Going to make sure you can vote. Is there anybody who can get your ballot back? Do not mail your ballot in. And I'm telling that to everybody. I'm saying it to everybody. Do not trust the Postal Service to get your vote back. If you get it on time, that's going to be the first part of our life.
And make sure you sign it.
Yeah, I didn't sign mine the last time and they sent it back. That I thought was wonderful. I don't know how I missed doing that, but my head's up my tail in that cape. So I'm somewhere else most of the time.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to get that ballot back to the registrar. Do not trust the United States mail service as long as this man is in charge.
Okay.
Do not trust it. I hope my medicine comes on time. I just started having my medicine mailed.
So did I. I just started
Yeah.
and I got my first delivery and it was a week late.
Yeah, and that's scary. We know this man is a liar. We know DeJoy is a liar. He's nothing but a liar. And a shouting match isn't going to help. Do something that's practical. And this is what's bothering me with the media today. This man is being a dictator. Say, he's a dictator. Words are important and they're useful. And your definition of cursing and cuss words is just so appropriate. I'm not cursing him. I'm cussing at him. And he needs to be cussed at because he's a rotten piece of dog
Doo-doo.
manure. He is awful. Do not trust him. Do not trust anybody he's put in office.
I mean, for me, when I talk to people, I ask them the Ronald Reagan question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
He's another liar. He's another liar. He didn't like black people in the movies. And then he ended up with Alzheimer's. Isn't God interesting? What he'll do for you. And now you and most of your folks want stem cells. And had he had them, perhaps his life would have been a little bit different. But what has happened to the Republican Party, it kills me. Because
It's
I've
dead.
had some good...
It's dead.
Yeah, I've had some very good friends who are Republicans. And,
So do
and,
I,
and
yeah.
as I said at one guy's funeral, his daughter had me come. I said I didn't like him when I first heard about him. And I didn't know this man.
Mm-hmm.
I had no right to like or dislike him. When he died, he was somebody I can say that I love. He was a man. His political affiliation didn't have anything to do with anything. He was a nice human being.
So in other words, see people for their humanity and not for their political party.
I know several people, I guess, who are Republicans. I kind of ignore them, especially online. I don't do that much anymore because I don't want to dislike them. They're nice people in every other way except for the way they vote. And how they can see Mr. Trump as being anybody who is worth giving a vote to.
I mean, even his sister's like, oh my God.
His daughter. For any man, I'm married to a man who has 3 daughters. Any man to say the salacious things that he said
Yes,
about
his
own
daughter. Yeah.
That's Creepville.
Yeah.
You-
No, and you saw the picture of him in a robe on a bed, and it was obviously not his bed. And to me, it was obvious it was Ivanka's bed, but that's just me.
I've already offered, and I haven't put it on paper yet, but I've been telling friends all over the United States. But this is my offer. Get your ballot, sign it. Claire and some other people will take it to the registrar's office. That is something I can and will do. Do not trust the mail. It might not get there. But if you trust me, I will make sure that it doesn't go through the mail. If you get it through the mail, that's going to be great.
Okay, but that's ballot harvesting, and that's
harvesting. That's
Yes.
the thing. You're not supposed to do harvest.
Right, you're not supposed to. Isn't that illegal in California? Or no, actually it's not, because at least not in Santa Clara, because I've seen the thing, if someone's going to take this for you, sign here.
That's the thing that's got me worried. But I'm still going to put the thing out. I will take your signed ballot to the registrar's office if you can't get it there yourself. Do not put it back in the mail. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, because
the harvesting thing has me a little worried, but I'm
really concerned about that, because I could see people volunteering to do that, and it never gets there.
That's why I said I'm going to put my name on it, because I used to be your mayor. You know that I'm active in this community. I'm going to make sure that it gets to the registrar's office. I'm not going to take it and drop it in any box. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take it to the registrar's office. I take mine there sometimes if I've gotten something crazy.
Right.
But that harvesting thing, that's what I'm slightly afraid of, but I'm going to make the effort anyway.
So have people come here and just drop it off here, and then you'll take it?
Or call me, and I'll take it. I don't drive as much as I used to, and I've told people I will take it there for you. I'm afraid for people's ballots to be goofed up or lost, and it's never happened in San Mateo. My husband's in his 90s. I'm in my 80s. You know, I'm not going to rely on...
No, I'm taking mine down to the registrar's office in San Jose.
Right, I think
I usually drop it off at the thing, but I could just see somebody's car being stolen.
Right. I don't know why they're not talking about this on television. Take it to the registrar's office. Do not rely on your mail. Your mail is being goofed with.
There is conversation about that, but it's just not as prominent.
So I've already told my friends all over the nation. I've told all my children. I've told all my friends. I know my daughter in Los Angeles does it. I don't know what my daughter in Oakland does, and my daughter's in the military. I don't know what she's going to do. But I'm telling everybody I know, don't rely on the mail to get your vote counted. Get to the registrar's office. And if you can't get there by yourself, let me know, and I will get it there for you. And I am not harvesting. That's not in my mind. That's what Trump was talking about this morning. He projects what he does.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely.
He tells on himself constantly.
Yeah, he constantly tells people, this is what I would do. And this is what white folks have done all our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those lazy slaves, they break the tools, they can't do this, they can't. Look at them.
And the most recent case of vote tampering was by the Republican Party, and I think it was in South Carolina or North Carolina.
Yeah, I would not trust the mail. And my husband and I have already decided when it comes, hopefully it'll come on time, we will get it filled out and we're going to take a car trip. Usually I cover these 2 blocks. I know what I can do, and I will do it.
So thank you so much for being so generous and allowing us in your home. It's an honor.
Coming in.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, and one more thing. It's called Claire's Crunch Cake. I have not had one. I'll be ordering one. I would suggest you do the same if you're in the Bay Area. So, bye, y'all.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Revivalist Conversations by the Revivalist News Network with your host, Emiliana Martin. Subscribe via Patreon at patreon.com/the Revivalist News Network. Start with an easy $5 a month subscription. If you like what you see and hear, consider increasing your subscription amount. Your generous subscription pays for much needed equipment upgrades so I can continue to crack open my Bible and make sense of what's happening in His kingdom on earth. You also can donate a lump sum directly at my GoFundMe page. Please visit gofundme.com/Revivalist News Network. Got story ideas? Send them to me at the Revivalist News Network at gmail.com. I'm on social media. Find me at Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram with my ID at Revivalist News. Find me on YouTube at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Revivalist News. bit.ly Revivalist News. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Revivalist News Network. And you can also find me on iTunes at bit.ly/RNN on iTunes. Birthed in Silicon Valley, the Revivalist News Network is a spirit-filled, unapologetic, full-throated, Jesus-focused YouTube channel, making plain His spiritual truths in light of current events. It also underscores California's role in the next outpouring. Revival is here, now, and it's for His people first because we can't give what we don't have during the coming harvest. The Revivalist News Network is determined to uncover how the church must lead, not relinquish its place in relieving suffering worldwide, starting here in America. Find me and the Revivalist News Network at #TRNN. That's #TRNN, which stands for the Revivalist News Network. Copyright Du Jour Communications, Revivalist Conversations, the Revivalist News Network 2020. All rights reserved.